Now, contemplatives in a variety of religious traditions have looked into the connection between how we use our attention and human happiness, how we behave among others, ethics and human happiness. There's a lot of wisdom in our religious traditions on these subjects, but invariably, this testimony is mingled with dogma. There's no doubt that doing the Jesus prayer for 18 hours a day is going to radically transform your moment-to-moment experience of the world. Very likely for the better. A Christian doing this practice will interpret these changes, these positive changes, as a confirmation of Christian dogma. As a confirmation of the idea that Jesus really was the Son of God, for instance. Now, it seems to me that there's a cure for this kind of provincialism. You only have to read about the identical experiences of Hindus to realize that the conclusion that Jesus is the Son of God is not the best interpretation of the data, of your own experience as a Christian. So the challenge for us, as I see it, is to find ways for talking about our deepest personal concerns, about the inevitability of death, about the inevitability of human suffering, about whatever we can do to transcend suffering, deepen communities, use ritual, to talk about all of this in terms that don't demand belief in anything on insufficient evidence. Because reason and evidence are our only link to one another. A fundamental openness to evidence is the only thing that guarantees the human conversation is truly open-ended. And that said, I'd like to thank you for listening to my side of it. Thank you very much.
We're going to ask those who wish to ask questions to line up behind the microphone here. I'd like to begin, and then Reverend Swope of IUCC will be asking a question, and then we really invite everyone here to comment. Sam, your critique of religion was chillingly clear, very precise. I don't think anyone would doubt that most of it is true. I was thinking that one line you used was even more provocative than your provocative title for your book. When you said, people are dying because of a belief in an imaginary God. That would have been a more provocative title for the book. You spoke about religious moderates. That's about as far as you took it to the left. I would dare say that most of us in this room are religious liberals. And we think, most of us, we think of God, the term God, I don't want to say most because I don't know everybody in the room, but many of us think of God, that term is a metaphor for a force or power inside people that lead them to goodness, to being caring and loving people, as a path towards fulfillment, self-actualization, altruism. That's how God or godliness works through us. Right? And we don't think of texts as coming from God, but rather being human products where human beings wrote those texts asserting what they thought was the highest and truest in their era. But for us, the texts raise questions, not give answers. We don't think of the Torah as a giant Ouija board, that we open up and it has answers. So my question for you is, what should liberal religionists do in the face of these alarming numbers, statistics you quoted about the number of religious fundamentalists and some truly scary beliefs about reality? What should liberal Jews and Christians and people of other faiths do to combat that level of what I would call spiritual ignorance? It might be religious faith, but it's spiritual and intellectual ignorance.
Is this on? Can you hear me for this one? Well, really what I'm arguing for, I'm arguing for a kind of intolerance. There's no way around it, but it is conversational intolerance. I'm arguing for new rules of conversation. You know, this is not the intolerance that gave us the Gulag in the former Soviet Union. I'm not advocating that people be jailed for believing the wrong thing about God, but I'm arguing that the rules that apply in every other area of our lives apply on matters of faith, apply on matters of spirituality and ethics and the kinds of claims people make under the aegis of religion. Take one example, stem cell research. Now, you can be a senator standing on the floor of the Senate saying things like, God creates life, man should not meddle in it. End of argument. That's the ethical argument. As I said, faith is a conversation stopper. As long as you don't have to give real reasons and real arguments for your position, then the sky's the limit. You can stand in the way of what is undoubtedly one of the most promising lines in biology of research as far as generating medical therapies. And you can stand there smugly and stupidly as a college-educated politician and undoubtedly not lose any sleep over it. I mean, it's not that these people are sinister. They have their beliefs, but their beliefs are arising in a context that is not criticizing them, that is not putting them to the kinds of challenges that we put beliefs in any other area of our lives. So the stem cell research conversation should go more like this. We should talk about what these human embryos that will be destroyed in stem cell research really are. A human blastocyst, a 3-day-old embryo, is a collection of 150 cells. That may sound like a lot of cells. There are 100,000 cells in the brain of a fly. Okay, we're talking about 150 cells arranged in a sphere without any nervous system. This collection of cells is not discernibly human in any way apart from its genome. And the interests of these cells are being used to trump, really, the interests of little girls with diabetes and men and women with Parkinson's disease, people with full body burns, and a score of other, really, of other conditions that could very likely be remediated if stem cell research proceeded completely without hindrance. Now, stem cell research is not outlawed, as you know. It's just being impeded by lack of funding. But 35% of Americans want it outlawed. 35% of Americans, you can raise the bar as high as you want on the side of benefit. No matter what possible benefit we could get from stem cell research, those are souls. Those blastocysts are fully ensouled. And souls are equivalent. So what I'm arguing is that religious moderates can't stand for this discourse. And I think it's a very difficult game to play as a religious moderate, because as long as you want to dignify the claim that it makes sense to organize your life around the Bible, say, because it really is such a good book, uniquely inscribed in our tradition, uniquely wise, then you really have very little purchase on a criticism of the people who are going to take the Bible far more literally. Because the Bible doesn't say, don't take me literally on this. God doesn't say, when you get to the New World and you develop your 3 branches of government, you can jettison all the barbarism I talked about in Leviticus.